Executive session before this meeting, and I have want to report that there's nothing to report out from that executive session. And so that now we'll call the meeting to order. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Director Hetherington.
Here.
Director Diamond.
Here.
President Stevens.
Here.
Director Odette.
Here.
Director Ralph.
Here.
Okay, special orders of business. The 2024 Truckee Tahoe Air Show Review. That's you, Mr. Love.
Me, sir. Did anybody have the slides that I put together? Photographs of airplanes?
They're on the website for,
I mean, it's not crucial, but we have them. We'll pull up a second. I have just a couple gee whiz photos I wanted to share with all you, which had slight stories to go with. While they're getting this organized, from the committee and from the community, I just want to formally thank you folks for supporting this air show and family festival we've done the last few years here. It's something that you and I both know is a really great thing for in this community, and look forward to each year. I had a committee meeting yesterday, and we're fully aware of the needs for work and repair at your airport. So we're not going next summer, but we are asking and hoping you'll give us consideration for the 2026 summer. We'll have some changes in our committee because we have some folks that are making some changes, but I've also got some core committee members that said, Dave, I'll be around if you'll be around. So they re-elected me to be their chairperson for another couple of years to do that kind of stuff. We are going to keep our website up and running, and with permission, I talked to Rob already, and your permission, I'm going to load on there in the next 2 weeks a statement that we're not going next summer because of needs of the airport district, but stand by, so to speak. We're hoping that there's a possibility of going in 2026, and as we have that more confirmed, but I think we should tell the community now we're not going next summer because people start looking forward and thinking about it, and to have some sort of, at least we're planning with the possibility of a 2026 return for the air show. So that's sort of formally what I'd like to put on our website, unless anybody has any objection to doing it kind of in that. I talked to the website people. We have a little bit of funding that we have in a corner, so we'll keep the website functioning. So if a decision is made to go forward in 26, then we'll begin prepping that at the appropriate time in the next year's budget. Now, obviously not this year's budget, but if you choose to put it back in the budget for next year, then we'll be happy to talk to you and see your concerns and desires and wishes. And we've got, I think, a good team that would return to help support it. You know, we had, like last summer, almost 400 volunteers in different components. Couple things I want to mention. I actually was talking to the board about this. I was a good friend with General Bud Anderson for 30 plus years, and he was speaker here and Grand Marshal here, and he actually has a little house across from Safeway on the lake that they bought in 1952. So he's always been a part-time resident up here, even when he was still in the military. So he died in April at 102 years of age. When he died, he was the highest scoring living ace in the world. And we wanted to celebrate his life. So I called up contacts and people we knew, and we asked, he flew a P-51 Mustang in World War II. First picture at the top is we did what's called a missing man formation. We were only one of two air shows in the United States to get 4 Mustangs together all of World War II to celebrate his life. The other was in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, which is the largest air show in the world. They have 15,000 people attend during a week, 15,000 airplanes, so we were pretty special. His son and daughter thanked me profusely for all of that. His son was a colonel in the Air Force also. So that's what a missing man looks like as the airplane pulls up. We have a fabulous announcer, and he did a great job with moment of silence and explaining the missing man and those kind of things. Next slide, please. That's one of the 4 airplanes we had. That's the airplane that actually pulled up. That's the colors of the squadron that General Bud Anderson flew in World War II. And he actually did 2 tours of duty during World War II. Full tour, came home, talked his way into going back, and flew a second tour. He not only was not shot down, he never had an airplane damaged in 2 tours in combat in World War II, which is more amazing than having 16 victories in a way. But the man was, in his book, General Chuck Yeager writes the introduction, he says, when you met Andy, which was his nickname, he was the most kind gentleman you ever met, quiet, mild-mannered. Put him in a Mustang and he turned into a Cobra. So, great man, great stories. He has a book to Fly and Fight. If you have never seen it, it's great. Next slide, please. We were lucky through Stacy's help particularly, and I can't thank Stacy and the airport board enough for all the support for the air show. These guys from the Leapfrogs, which is the Navy's demonstration parachute team, said, can we come to your air show? The answer was, you gotta be kidding, certainly. So they were here. They do big air shows all over the world. They were at D-Day for 2 weeks for the 80th anniversary of D-Day this year. So they came up, and we had 2 things that happened that were just spectacular. One, they jumped for our show, but we have to do practice days and rehearsal days before we do the show. So we had 3 busload of kids come up. Did we get one of the kids' slides up or not? We did.
No, we didn't.
Okay, I have some pictures some days if you want to see it from us. We had kids sitting out here on the grass behind the fence on Thursday, and we had 3 of our performers practice, and the Leapfrogs jumped. They landed 5 feet in front of the fence. And then they came in and on the grass showed the kids how to repack their parachutes. And these are all Navy SEALs. So next slide, please. And if you haven't seen a professional jump team, it's pretty amazing to watch. They're locked together with their knees while they're spinning around in these chutes. These aren't normal parachutes, by the way. These are highly combative aerodynamic chutes. So, and these guys were fabulous. Did all kinds of stuff while they were here for the week. They said when they left, can we come back? Our answer was, we have another show. We'd love to have you come back. So I think it's one was the highlights of our show, and these gentlemen and they brought their families up. We called Reno up to the Air National Guard, the high rollers, and said, we need a C-130. They said, how about 2? He said, we'll bring one up and put it on your ramp so people can walk through it, and we'll bring one up as the jump team for these guys. So we had 2 C-130s supporting us from the Reno Guard. Again, we had the military folks step up immediately, and which certainly was a highlight for us. We'd never had anything quite that spectacular going in past years, so I was just excited. We all were on the committee, all the volunteers, and I think the community found it to be really exciting. Next slide, please. I called up my contacts at Beale Air Force Base. This is a T-38. The fighter version is called an F-5. I flew these in the Air Force. We had 2 of them the last couple of years. I called up the commander up there and I said, can I have the T-38s? He said, yeah, but you can't. You're going to have 3 because I decided I want to fly. I got the day off. He says, well, we'll bring you 3 T-38s for flybys. So they came out of Beale and did flybys for us, more military support. Great guys. Next slide, please. That's it. That's all we got. That's good. So that's kind of highlights for us. The Kids Zone stuff, the face painters. We had more vendors than we'd ever had historically, whether you wanted some good food, some good ice cream. We had the Tuskegee Airmen here with all the stuff for the STEM stuff talking about. I was lucky enough in the Air Force. I worked for a 3-star general who was an original Tuskegee Airman on a special project for a while, General Chappie James. So it was really fun, and it turns out that one of the women here had known Chappie as a child, so she and I got a chance to talk a little bit, so it was just cool stuff. So we were under budget slightly, but we made it within the budget for all the things, and I think that's due to lots of volunteer support and time. Any of you who were there, I think we were lucky. We had great weather, great folks, great community support. And I think we have a thing that this community recognizes. And I think the important thing is you can't walk on the airport and walk around anymore. I mean, I used to walk around airports as a kid all the time. I've talked to a lot of people and they say, well, you know, we're still in that, I just got to say this, we're still in that little bit of a mode that airports are for rich people with their fancy jets. And of course, there are rich people with fancy jets who bring them here. Clearly do. We're at Lake Tahoe. But when the fire broke out just the other side of Truckee here, it's really nice to have fire support from the local groups who have worked together and coordinated, get aircraft in here immediately, hit it hard, hit it quick. And I think your community saw right up front that day that how important and valuable that is. And this airport is a staging thing for all kinds of things, whether it's medical evacuation, whether it's firefighting, et cetera, that the community doesn't know until it happens that day. And I think that's something we had. This whole ramp up here was full of firefighting equipment and firefighting aircraft during the air show. They got to go out and talk to the pilots, talk to the crews, see what they did. And I think that was as important as also the fun stuff, in other words, the air show kind of stuff. So that's my report, quick and dirty. And if you have any questions of me, any of you, please.
Any questions? David?
Thanks, David. It was another fun air show. Great job to all the committee. I've got actually just a comment and then a question. Comment, thank you for recognizing that this district makes our airport available for emergency services and that we basically do everything they ask us to do. So thank you for recognizing that because it is important to us. The question I've got for you is, if you take a year off and you come back in 26, are you anticipating anybody from the committee not being able to return?
Yes. We've got a couple of people who are aging out. I've got a committee member who's got some pretty serious health-related issues that I don't think he'll be able to return because he's talked to me about a little bit. But on the other hand, we've had people you don't see so much that we've been trying to bring on board and teach them some of the roles. And, you know, some of us are getting a little older. So our real goal here now is really getting some new community people who are interested into more major roles with us. We had people out on the ramp working for us. That we have a woman who worked on the ramp for us who is a Southwest airline pilot, and she's retiring in 18 months. So I said to her, how about joining the committee when you have more time in your real life, when you get done flying professionally? She says, yeah, I'd be really interested in that. I'm going to stay in the area. The head of the Leapfrogs is planning on moving to Truckee in 2 years. And he says, once I'm here, anything I can do to help you. So my job right now is to recruit additional members, new members, expanding our base. And I think it's doable. Right. And if you give us a go for 26 when we hear that, my job, I think, is to make sure we build a solid committee of people. Many have been in secondary roles. They've worked the ramp. They've done stuff. So they're not novices to what we do, right, but they don't necessarily formally sit on the committee. Plus, we're working with 3 service clubs, so they got memberships. So EAA and Optimus and Kid Zone. They've got stuff. Joan from Kid Zone here, who's formerly from the school district for a long time, one of the administrators, just retired from the school district. She's joined our committee now and has become a key role. And that's the kind of people I think that will allow us to continue, if that was your question.
I don't know how the rest of the board feels like. If the committee that's been doing the air show, if we just saw the last air show from that same committee, I would be up for some sort of formal acknowledgement of them from the board for those people if it's going to change, because it's.
They'd appreciate it, and thank you, sir.
I think that formal.
Would you like to make a motion?
I don't know. Am I allowed to? Probably not.
It's not on the motion for
Yeah.
action, but we can certainly add it to a future agenda, maybe as soon as next month.
I'd like to
pending,
acknowledge
priorities.
them in some formal way
Well-
if I have consensus.
You have consensus, and I'd like to thank you, thank your committee, thank all the staff who helped on it. It was a terrific air show. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Take care. Good luck.
Okay. Modification of agenda, we reserve the right to change the agenda. I've had no requests to that, but we do have the possibility of doing that. And now, speak your piece.
I
Would-
wanted to pull something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to pull the minutes from the first special meeting from
We have a
August
long
20.
way to go till we get to that.
It says pull that's a modification of the agenda,
Okay.
right?
I can do that when we get to the consent agenda. You want to pull a consent agenda?
Well, you asked if I wanted to modify, so that was my
Go ahead.
modification, was to pull it.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody else want to pull any item on the consent agenda? I'm going to read the speak. Pay attention. Be aware and attend to the world and the people around you. Listen. Focus on others in order to better understand their points of view. Be inclusive. Welcome all groups of citizens working for the better good of the community. Don't gossip. Don't accept when others choose to do so. Show respect. Honor other people and their opinions, especially in the midst of a disagreement. Be agreeable. Look for opportunities to agree. Don't contradict just to do so. Apologize. Be sincere and repair damaged relationships. Give constructive criticism. When disagreeing, stick to the issues. Don't make a personal attack. Take responsibility. Don't shift responsibility and blame onto others. Share disagreements publicly. Now is the time for public comment for any items that is not on the agenda. Do we have any public comments? Please step up to the mic, sir, and tell me your name and where you're from. Tal.
Hi. Hi, my name's Tal Fletcher, and I live about a mile away in a noise-sensitive house. I'm also a pilot and a local hangar tenant. As most of you know, I've made public comment here before, and I'm pretty comfortable getting up in front of the room without a prepared statement. For tonight, I decided to put some thoughts on paper, mostly out of respect for the time limit on public comment. I could talk for an hour about what follows, but for now, I will respect the 3-minute time limit. I've tried for the last few days to come up with a version of what I want to say without naming names and by making broad statements that could apply to any and all board members. But what follows stems from a 2-year history with one specific board member, and I see no reason to sugarcoat that. As a voter, a constituent, a pilot, a hangar tenant, a frequent attendee of these meetings, and a 31-year resident of this community, I'm calling for the final 45 days of this election cycle to be positive, drama-free, fair, entirely different than our shared experience from 2 years ago. I commit to all of you and everyone else in this district that that will be my approach as we gear up to support our candidates of choice. 4 years ago, David Diamond was relatively new in town and introduced himself to me as a fellow pilot and airport board candidate. We spent an hour in my hangar, had a great conversation, and ultimately I endorsed him, campaigned for him, and voted for him. We stayed in touch, both as friends, fellow pilots who want what's best for the future of this airport, and with him as an elected official and me as his constituent. This relationship continued until the last election cycle, when David promoted a deeply flawed candidate to run against another board member. Without officially being that candidate's campaign manager, David poured his heart, soul, and political capital into defeating his fellow board member. The voters responded, with his candidate finishing a distant last place and the incumbent candidate retaining her well-deserved seat. David paid the political price by being voted out of leadership positions by his fellow board members. I was not deeply involved in the race until I heard and saw inappropriate trash being talked about my favorite board member. I responded defensively and aggressively. Without anyone asking me to, I assumed the role of bodyguard, with nothing more important than protecting the subject. After the election, I sent sincere notes to many of the people who had lined up against me and the candidates I supported. Like a hockey game where you beat the hell out of each other and then go get beers after the game, I attempted to mend fences, offered olive branches, and tried to move forward. I incorrectly, and side note, which I didn't write down, I appreciate Mary's willingness to shake my hand and move forward in that moment. I incorrectly assumed that everyone involved could move beyond our different choices of candidates. I attempted to shake David's hand at the next couple board meetings, and he responded with a shrieking call for security to remove me from the building, which of course wasn't warranted and never happened. I hope everyone got a nice laugh out of that in that moment. Since then, David's been sharing with anyone who will listen that he has a 120-page dossier on me and that he plans to use that against me if I'm vocal during this election cycle. He has told people that he will humiliate me if I do or say anything that upsets him. Fortunately for me, I know everything I've done and said in my life, and I have no skeletons in my closet. I imagine his dossier has a bunch of screenshots of social media posts that I made, likely taken out of context. I have no such files of his past because I couldn't care less about it. It feels weird to be living rent-free inside someone's head, and it's certainly not a place I aspire to be. So David, I invite you to share the dossier. If you have it here, bust it out. Let's review it. I've got nothing to hide. I've got my last paragraph here. Better yet, let's not get into the mud this time around. There's another highly, laugh if you want.
I think we just got in the mud.
There's another highly qualified incumbent running alongside you, and I challenge you to give her the respect that you did not give another incumbent last time around. Promote yourself, promote a candidate to fill a vacant seat if you want, but please don't bring the toxic approach we all witnessed 2 years ago. Your constituents deserve better and expect more from their elected officials. There's more that unites us than divides us. Cheers to a positive election cycle.
Thank you, Tal.
Sure.
Any other public comment?
I'm much shorter here. My name is Maggie Schumacher. I live here in Truckee and Glenshire. I moved to Truckee in 1997, and between here and Kings Beach, I've been here since that time. I have two boys that are ages 12 and 15, and my main reason for being up here today is actually to thank many of you in this room for your time, your insights, your support, and your ideas. I'm very involved in the EAA and the Civil Air Patrol, and in collaboration with the Mission to Mars program and working with Ken Aronson, my kids went through that program, and now both of my kids volunteer for that program. And he had shared with me some of the interests in expanding some of the STEM education and some things he'd heard along the way from board members, from people in the community. And it kind of triggered me to jump in. I actually teach some STEM enrichment classes through the Parks and Rec. I am an independent study teacher for both of my kids. Have done a lot of work with Forest Charter and Twin Ridges, and am the deputy commander for cadets for the Civil Air Patrol program. So anyways, after a number of conversations with various people in the community, board members, airport staff, EAA, and Civil Air Patrol, and then also reaching out to Kid Zone and the Roundhouse and various places that people directed me might be good venues to reach out to, I approached the EAA board with Jack Ellis, who we worked together, both EAA and Civil Air Patrol, and we approached the EAA board on adding some STEM education opportunities on their second Saturday flight rally days to expand some STEM education, because in the time of my kids, I've been on the Kid Zone board for 12, almost 13 years, or not the board, on the exhibits committee for them, and have worked with exhibits. And one of our big things as we've been developing the new building there is trying to expand and have more opportunities for young people. And an area that I've seen decline in our community since my kids were little is STEM education for young people, and even up into the teen years and even young adults. So that's an area that I've wanted to focus on. So we approached the EAA board. They jumped on the idea of us offering STEM in addition to the flight rallies and flying. So we started that in August. So we had the event on August 10th. We had approximately 80 people show up to that event, which is significantly higher than we've had in the past, and they flew 30 Young Eagle flights. In September, that number increased. It was about 90 people. We served over 60 meals, and we flew 31 Young Eagles, and the exciting part of that was it was 14 first-time, kids flying and becoming Young Eagles. So that was pretty awesome. Our next event's on October 12th, and I just want to invite everybody here to join us and check it out. And then I also just wanted to share kind of the direction that we're going. So our first two events were really focused on general STEM with a variety of activities to kind of see what the interest was in the community. But we're actually meeting in the next couple of weeks to determine more of a focus for a specific topic, and then also expanding into some high school age workshops with one of our EAA members is a retired Sac State professor, and he's interested in teaching some things that he has from the college level and bringing it down to the high school level. So a number of things we're working on. I have 22 cadets in the Civil Air Patrol program, and we do a lot of focus on aerospace education and aviation. So I just wanted to share what we're doing and invite you guys to be a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Directors, staff, my name is Bill Greeno, and I am here to request that the board maintain the down payment assistance that is currently offered for staff here at the airport. And the reason is, and I understand it hasn't been used, just learned this. The Truckee Home Access Program through the town of Truckee allows, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, it allows the buyer to receive 16% of the down payment of the price of the house towards their purchase. So they only have to come up with 4%. As time goes on, these houses, these deed restricted houses, are going to be a part of the market, and that money isn't going to be available again. So the house will be worth less money because of the deed restriction. You know, the billions of people in the world that can buy the house, with the deed restriction, only people that live and work in the school district can buy that house. So now we're down to thousands of people, or even hundreds. Those people will need that assistance with the down payment. And so for those reasons, again, I would encourage you to maintain the down payment assistance portion of the budget for staff at the airport. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Directors, Chair Stevens, Jan Holland, I run the Lyft workspace across the way, and as I was sitting in the budget workshop today, I realized that we were so busy for the last 20 months trying to get, into the black and getting operating and growing from, 50 members to over 200 members, that I realized I never really came in here, and thank you all for taking a risk on, a public benefit project that was run on a shoestring by the Holland family, and let a publicly traded company like Clear Capital off the lease and let us into the space. So that really speaks highly to, both, I think, your willingness to take risk for the community, but also your community focus. So I do appreciate that a lot. As I was sitting in the budget workshop, I was also, and you're not the only organization. We're doing our own budgeting into the future, and we're hosting now an incredible number of nonprofits. Probably, I've just recently looked at it. It was about 18 nonprofits, most of them here locally, most of them completely free. But the Makerspace come in, they do their board meetings in our space. And one of the things I'm a bit concerned about, because there's a bit of uncertainty as we're moving forward to where leases are going, particularly for some of the community benefit organizations. And I understand the need for looking at market rates and charging everyone a market rate. My understanding is that's what the FAA requires. However, I also want to just caution that could potentially result from some of these organizations being quite stressed, not being able to provide the services that we love, and without backfilling that with some other support. I imagine that what we don't want to see is some of these community benefit organizations have to relocate to Reno, because A, it may not be possible, and B, that's of course not what we want. So anyway, I mainly wanted to thank you all for taking a risk. I know some of you are retiring. Thank you for 8 years of service, and that a couple of you are up for re-election, so it might be one of my last opportunities to thank you in this forum. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jan, and thank you for paying your rent every month on time. You've done a great job. I'm not supposed to say that, but I did. Any other public comment? We're moving on to the consent agenda. Director Rolfe has pulled number 1, the minutes from August 28th special meeting. Does anybody else want to pull anything else? Can I have a motion to approve items 2 through 5?
So moved.
Second? Anybody second?
Second.
Any public comment? Any board comment? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Director Rolfe, would you like to talk about item number 1?
Yeah, I can't find the exact, sorry, my brain's not working right now.
You looking for this one? No?
No.
Never mind.
I just wanted to point out that it, somewhere in here, talks about there being consensus about, the policy 311 moving forward. Oh, and you want to say 38 too? And I think that we've had this conversation earlier today. There's a lot of confusion about consensus post workshops because we don't record them and we don't actually have action items with votes. And so I'd just like to change the language because my memory of there being consensus is different from other people's memory of there being consensus.
So how would you like to amend those minutes?
I'm trying to find,
I'm reading it. I mean, I have a hard copy because I was curious about it too, but there's no reference to 311 consensus. There's the policy instruction 311, but I don't see, there was consensus about 317 and 507. But what am I?
I know, well, I can't find it now either, so.
Right here, 42.
Oh,
42?
There was consensus to have,
It must be last dollar.
yeah. But 38 says there was no consensus about invitation only.
That was the invitation only piece, yeah.
Which is 311. And then 42.
Okay, well, if I can't find it, then I guess, never mind.
Would you please make a motion to approve item 1 on the consent agenda?
I will make a motion to approve item 1 on.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comment? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. Nobody. All right, we are moving on to action items. Number 6, classification and compensation study. Mr. Ednar. Oh, not Mr. Ednar.
Today, we have our consultant with us here from Bryce Consulting, and be walking through the presentation on the information you've already been provided in the board books. And just wanted to say thank you for the work with our staff and with Lauren, who's out today, to get through the details of this and be very thorough in this process. So thank you very much.
Of course. Okay. So I'm Shelley Anderson with Bryce Consulting, so thank you so much for having me this afternoon. We conducted a classification and compensation study on behalf of the district, so I wanted to walk you through the process and the deliverables and the recommendations for the classification study. With respect to the compensation study, the process, the agencies that we compared, the data that we compared, which classifications we surveyed, the findings and the recommendations. In terms of the classification study, we held orientation sessions with all of the employees to walk them through the process. They had a pretty important part in the classification study because they provide information about what it is that they do on a daily basis, what's required to perform those duties through a detailed questionnaire. And then each employee was also interviewed by myself, where I could obtain clarification, get information. It's a lot of technical jobs, so being able to talk with them in addition to reading about what they do on a day-to-day basis. It just helps provide a complete picture. It also gives them another opportunity if there's something that they forgot. It's hard to remember everything that you do. They could then provide it if they didn't provide it in the questionnaire. I also interviewed all of the department managers just to get an idea of how the work is distributed, what their department's responsible for, any concerns that they might have. As I mentioned, we talked with each of the employees, then we developed our findings and our recommendations, reviewed that with the management team, and then we finalized our recommendations. And I will say that all of the employees, in terms of the deliverables, received a recommendation for the classification for their position. They received a revised job description that reflects what they're currently doing. All of the employees had an opportunity to review the draft recommendation and provide any feedback that they wanted to. We had 3 employees who provided minor feedback, and they're very easily rectified comments that they had or changes that they wanted to their job description that we can do. And then we also conducted an FLSA analysis in terms of which positions meet the test for being exempt from overtime and which ones do not. In terms of the compensation study, in terms of the recommendations, I just jumped ahead too many slides. We did update all of the job descriptions. We did recommend some title changes. You have an Aviation and Community Services Manager, Information Technology. We're recommending just shortening that and calling it an Information Technology Manager. You have an Aviation and Community Services Manager. You have one for Public Relations and one for Property. We're recommending that the titles be changed to Property Coordinator and Public Relations Coordinator. We're also recommending that they go from being exempt from overtime to being non-exempt. And you have Aviation and Community Services Program Coordinator, Aviation Community Outreach that we were just recommending become an Outreach Coordinator. We were just trying to shorten up some of the titles. And then in terms of new classifications, some of this is for future succession planning. I don't know that there's any intent for them to be filled anytime soon, with the exception of the last one. Creating a Deputy General Manager, a Deputy Director of Operations and Maintenance, and then a new noise annoyance / IT technician to provide backup for your single IT manager, just to be able to provide some redundancy in terms of kind of the lower level IT support that we recommended that classification as well. In terms of the compensation study, very similar to previous years, we collected salary and benefit data, we collected job descriptions so that we could compare organizational level, we can compare duties, we can compare requirements. We calculated the labor market mean, so that's the average, that's what's been used in the past. We looked at both the PEPRA tier as well as the classic tier. So PEPRA is for anyone who entered CalPERS after July 1st, 2013. Their legislation in a different tier, and then the classic tier would be anyone who entered CalPERS service prior to that. All of the findings have been reviewed with the general manager and the human resources manager. In terms of our in terms of our agencies, we surveyed 15 organizations. 3 of them didn't respond. They didn't respond previously as well. So Palisades Tahoe, North Star, and Reno Tahoe Airport. We were able to add a large private organization this time. However, in exchange for their participation, we have to keep their name confidential. And so their data is in there. I know it's important to try to get both private and public data. It's very difficult to get private organizations to participate. And so we did have one that was willing to, as long as, again, we kept their name confidential. In terms of the data that we collected, it's both salary plus benefits. So we have the salary, we have the retirement pickup that's paid by the employer, and for the classic and the PEPRA tiers for PEPRA, the employer can't pay any of the employee share retirement, so that's going to be a 0 there. We have deferred compensation again for both tiers, longevity pay, education certification, and then all the health benefits. So what does the organization contribute towards health, dental, vision, life insurance, long-term disability? If they have a retiree health savings account, are they contributing while the employee is actively employed? Are they in Medicare only or Medicare plus FICA? And then some organizations have implemented cost sharing, where employees actually are responsible for paying a portion of the employer's share of retirement, and so that's been factored in as well. And then in terms of miscellaneous data, these are certainly benefits, but they're a little bit harder to quantify, so we provide the information and summarize it. It was important to know when the organizations have their next cost of living increase and what the amount is. It takes us a while to collect the data, so sometimes we run into an organization who has a change while we're doing it, so we want to be able to go back and update that data prior to being finalized. We included all of their retirement information. Are they under CalPERS or something else? What's their benefit? What's their formula? Vehicle allowance, uniform allowance, education reimbursement, retiree health benefit information. So this would be once they actually retire, is the organization contributing towards their health care, all of their leave cash out, do they have a health fitness benefit, and then shift differential. So some of that is more kind of policy. It wouldn't apply to every employee necessarily, and so again, it's a little bit hard to quantify, so that's why we summarize it. In terms of our classifications, we surveyed 21 of the classifications. It's almost all of your classifications with respect to series like the operations and maintenance technician. We picked the journey level. You have a 1 and you have a specialist. The journey level typically results in the most data because not everyone provides an entry level and not everyone has a need for an advanced journey level. So that's why you have the 2 there. You currently don't have an accountant 2, you have a senior accountant. Again, the journey level makes the better comparison. So in addition to your currently filled senior accountant, we wanted to add the accountant 2 in case we ended up with insufficient data for the senior accountant. Then we could at least have an idea if your whole series is consistent with market or not. In terms of the results, the recommendation, sorry if I didn't realize I was hitting that. We did focus on the PEPR tier because that's where kind of the bulk of your employees are residing right now. So we have all of our survey classes. The first tier is, or the second column is just base pay. So the percentage that you are from the labor market mean. So you can see you have quite a few classes that are above. If it says market check, it's because it's a new classification. These are the ones that have been proposed. We don't have a current salary of yours to compare to the market, so we can't say that you're a percentage above or below because we don't know you don't have a salary. You have a few that are behind market. The next column is total cash, so that includes the maximum of the range. It includes deferred compensation, it includes longevity pay, and it includes education certification pay. And then the third column includes all of that, plus health, dental, vision, life insurance, long-term disability, retiree health savings, Social Security, and then minus the cost sharing. So again, you can see that there's some classifications that have fallen below market, and then you have quite a few that are actually above market. Overall, if we take all of the classifications that we surveyed that resulted in sufficient data, for maximum base pay, you're a little over 7% above market. That's if we take the average of all of those classes and where they sit. For the total cash, you're 9.11% above, and for total compensation, you're 5.21% above. In terms of recommendations, for classifications that are less than 5% below market or they're over market, the recommendation is to make no change. We are recommending to increase the information technology manager. That is one of the positions that was significantly below market. And then the facility maintenance manager as well. And so we're recommending adjustments be made to those. With respect to the airport safety and security manager, we have insufficient data for that. So typically when that happens, we link it to something else. And so the recommendation is to link it to the facility maintenance manager. And then obviously, as I mentioned, because we have enough data, we went ahead and made recommendations for these last 3 classifications. Should those not be filled for a period of time, then those recommendations may have to be updated. For the most part, they were based off of internal recommendations, so you could potentially keep what we've recommended. And then obviously, any questions that you have, I'm more than happy to answer.
Questions from the board?
Hi, thanks for your work on that. I'm just curious about the previous slide that we just saw, the new positions that are at the bottom. Where did the new positions, like these 2 deputy positions, and where did this all come from?
Those are recommendations from me to get some benchmarking assessment of where they might be if we were to add those positions in the future. Right now, we're a pretty flat organization, so if we were to promote within or bring external, it creates a little bit more of depth in the organization, so you can have some ability to people to articulate up in their positions here. There's no plan to hire those positions right now.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions? Mary?
I just go back 1 more or 2 more in terms of, yeah, so 7, no. And this was in the report.
Correct.
What page was this?
Oh, It's actually broken into multiple tables.
Okay.
So, hang on, I do have the report open, so I can tell you. We did tables just for base pay, we did tables just for total cash and just for total comp. I just was trying to fit what I could in this and make it so that you could actually read it, so I
Yeah.
just did the percentages above or below. But if you, sorry. Get through all the classification stuff.
Okay.
So it starts on page 15. We have table 5, which is a summary of the maximum salary. And then we have on the next page, the summary of total cash, which is on page 36. And we did it both for the classic tier and the pepper tier in those
Right.
tables. On this,
Separately.
I just focused again on the pepper because it would have been so small, we wouldn't have been able to
Right.
read it. And then the total compensation results would be table 7, and that starts on page 38. And it's similar. We did it for both the classic and the pepper tier, but it would have been too small to do both.
Okay. And so the question that I have coming from private industry, load factors are about 30 to 40%. And I'm wondering, did you do a calculation to see what the load factor is?
I did it.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah, because we're really also focused on the maximum. So it's not people's actual salaries, which I know a lot of times when organizations budget and then look at what the percentage of total compensation is salary versus benefits, oftentimes we're looking at their actual salaries because we're looking at the maximum of the range. This is the most that you would have to pay and compensate. And certainly we're looking at on the healthcare, what's the most the organization is obligated to pay. That doesn't mean every employee takes advantage of that plan. We did the family plan, but you may very well have some single employees who are not using that. But if they have a family and they want to get on that plan, then these organizations are obligated to pay that. So everything is based on maximum.
Just because now we have, the old min max was there, and now you've got the new min max. It's still up to our general manager to decide where people are.
Oh, absolutely. All we're doing is making a recommendation for the range.
And there were no Y classes in this circumstance.
No, there was no recommendation to Y rate any of
Okay.
the classifications.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yes? No? No other questions? Any public comment?
Hello, David Van Quest, Truckee Airport. Just as with the study here, I thought as the last AVCOM member here today, because everyone else is coming back from conferences or on jury duty, vacation, there was a mention of the new position, noise IT tech, and she's not here right now, but I just wanted to introduce you to Kay Ziegenheimen. She comes from being seasonal with us for 2 different seasons, and she'll be taking over the noise stuff and helping out with IT. So just wanted you to get to know Kay. I'll be helping with the transition of noise stuff for her. So thank you.
Thank you, DVQ.
And that position was the salary for that position was a previous position that's been on the books here as a pilot outreach position that we've prioritized with this new job description that we've moved towards hiring.
No other comment? Do I have a motion on this approval of the classification and compensation study?
I'll make the motion, we approve the classification and compensation study.
Second.
Any comments? Let's have a vote here. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is passed. The next item is
Thank you.
review and approve amendments to policy instruction 212, identify health benefit contributions for directors.
Thanks, President Stevens. I'll present the staff report on this one. So this item is a follow-up to our discussions over the past few months related to director health benefit coverage, and a direct follow-up to the board's action at your August board meeting to elect to provide coverage to directors through the CalPERS health system under a statute known by the acronym PEMCA. The board will remember that to elect to enter into the CalPERS system for this coverage, the board adopted a resolution. That resolution set a standard contribution, which was set at the minimum permitted by PEMCA. But we let the board know as part of that that staff was going to recommend revisions to PI 212 to provide an additional supplemental benefit to directors who participate to bring you up to the actual part of coverage. So staff has worked really closely with my colleague Isabel Safey, who is presenting the item at the August board meeting, to determine a recommended formula for the board to consider. And so what's before you this evening would be a modification to PI 212, which would set that formula for health benefit coverage at the amount equivalent to the CalPERS Gold health coverage at the family plan level. This amount would ensure equity between the district's health coverage amounts provided to employees and those provided to directors. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Public comment? Okay, let's have a motion to approve. I intend to abstain since this will not apply to me.
I move we approve the amendments to policy instruction 212 to identify the health benefit contribution for directors dated September 25th, 2025.
You have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? I abstain.
You abstain because we're Medicare roll people. That doesn't apply to us.
So this was passed 3 with 2 abstentions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh, for the work on this. Committee assignments, board committee assignments.
So we are down a couple staff members today. We normally report on the first couple items. I don't have anything additional to report on housing or the River Revitalization Steering Committee. On the third item, the Climate Transformation Alliance, we have an upcoming meeting on October 11th, which is open to everybody from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. right here in this room. And the following meetings for the Climate Transformation Alliance are listed there in the staff report. I don't have any other items other than that.
And the act is on the interesting topic of our draft budget.
That was my plan. Keep the community informed of our budget conversations.
Do we have any volunteers to attend ACT or limitations? Kat Rolfe is volunteering. That is on October 9th. Probably, is that true? That's, it's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
I can try and do that unless you want to do it.
No, thank you. I had enough budget earlier today. Okay,
I'll confirm that, and if I can't, I will.
then I could maybe do it. All right, we're going to the management team reports.
Yeah, for the first report, for the January report, I have information presented in there. I don't have any additional comments to the report presented. Happy to take questions, though.
Regarding hangars, I had a question in terms of if we've heard anything from the insurance company.
We met with the insurance company's representatives this last month. They did a site inspection of the work being done, got some further information from the contractor about the cost of that work, the nature of the work. We are putting together a final bill, per se, of our expectation for reimbursement, and we plan on sending that over in the next 2 weeks to the insurance company to begin the finalizing the reimbursement on that, which we expect by the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
If we don't make significant progress in the next month, I'll be leaning over to Josh to solicit some more assistance in that.
And when will the
Benz?
and when will the repaired hangars be available for occupancy?
We expect the last hangar, as you see on the chart here, to be completed at the end of October. As hangars are, the other hangars as are wrapped up and put back into condition for occupancy beyond the repair, making sure the fire suppression systems are in place, the lighting's back hooked up, all the additional repairs outside of the repair work that we're doing with ourselves or our contractor. We are opening those up to tenants on the wait list and shuffling people accordingly. So that's actively happening right now.
Yeah, is that in here?
You want to have a public comment here?
My understanding, from the olden days, there was an issue with advertising going on the field. And there was a resolution that we passed in the olden days that was saying that that could not be done. And I'm asking that you try and find that resolution and implement it. There were people putting, slipping stuff under hangers, posting stuff on their doors, and this, Josh, is this like neutral territory, or is this a legal issue?
It's definitely a legal issue, and we'll need to look at that I have to punt, to be honest with you, Mary. We need to look at the resolution, see exactly what it covered. In the last couple of years, there has been, the courts have taken a more protective view of even tenants in some situations' ability to post First Amendment materials. So we'll take a look at the resolution, see what it says, and then we'll confirm it's enforceable. And to the extent it's enforceable, we'll of course enforce it even-handedly.
050607. Some.
You also have the AVCOM report in there. If there aren't any other questions on the GM report, I don't have any additional comments on that. I know Dave Van Quest, nope, he already left. But I'm happy to address questions on the AVCOM report as well. Our Director of Aviation will return this Friday. If not, we'll turn it over to Director of Finance for financial report update, unless you had some.
I just had a really brief update. Just wanted to make sure the board saw that one of the items on the ballot for the voters in November is the climate bond, Prop 4. That's a $10 billion bond that allocates money for a bunch of different climate change type projects, one of which, and relevant to your strategic plan and past actions, is $1.5 billion for wildfire and healthy forest management programs.
Just a quick highlights for 8 months, finished in August. We have total revenues of 13 million, budgeted 12, so we are up 320,000 in revenue. Total expenses of 11 million versus a budget of close to 11 million. We're down 126,000. Net income is negative 33,000 with a budget of negative 421,000. So we are ahead of ourselves there, and that's including the expenditures for the hangar damages, which will be offset with the insurance proceeds once we receive those. And we are moving forward with our NetSuite implementation, starting to work on getting all of our data migrated over into the new system. And now we just need to work on a date for a budget workshop in October.
When will we be done with NetSuite? Completely over?
Cassell, you mean?
Pardon me?
The old system or the new system?
No, the new.
I want to go live January 1, so we have a year's worth of data to do the audit with, because if you do a cutover mid-year, it's a little bit...
You'll keep Cassell for this year,
Yeah.
for audit.
Yep,
Thank you.
you got it.
Does anybody have any questions for our Director of Finance and Administration? Do we have any public comment? Okay, thank you. Future agenda priorities and meeting management.
As Kelly just mentioned, we'll be circulating a poll for another workshop, number 2 for budget, ahead of the October regular board meeting, to see if we can find a date to walk in for the adjustments of budget based on the board feedback today. Other than that, there is some further work that we're doing now on the Apron A2 projects and bringing that full package together for the board. I'm not sure of the timing when that's going to be ready, hopefully by the October board meeting at the latest. And that's all.
We're talking to the board, and knowing that the ACT meeting is going to be on the budget, so try and free up something in the first week in October so we can have some clarity for what he's going to be presenting on that ACT.
It's going to be tight.
It is going to be tight, but I believe in you.
On me, them.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, the ACT meeting wasn't an attempt to present a final budget to the community. It was an attempt to draw the community into the conversation of draft budget workshop discussions, things that are being prioritized, what we're thinking about. It wasn't intended to be a final budget presentation. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'd like to, the rolling agenda, I'd like to comment that for action items, we have the TTSA land exchange final contract approval. I'm so excited about this. When Rob came in, I gave him a list of 15 things that he needed to take care of, and this is the last thing on my list that hasn't been done. So I'm really excited about this.
And I don't see the agency partnership listed on the rolling agenda.
Yeah, I think we'll need to add that. I just need to get with the TTCF folks to make sure we're good on the timing of when they had the final product ready. I know they're wrapping up their deliberations, so I'll check in on that. We'll add that to the agenda for
Beyond the October?
potentially.
If it's ready.
Yeah, potentially ready for October. Worst case, it would be the December meeting.
Okay. Staff and board member conference attendance reports.
Previously briefed, I did attend 2 conferences on sustainable aviation fuel and for at the airport community. I was a speaker at one of the conferences. These past couple weeks, I'm attending 2 more conferences coming up, speaking at both of those on sustainable aviation fuel and what the Truckee Airport has done as a model general aviation airport with onboarding. Sustainable aviation fuel is the only jet fuel that we sell. And those are in my management report.
Meeting review and directions to staff.
I don't have any additional questions or comments.
Okay, any board member announcements?
I have an announcement. I went to the Young Eagles event earlier this month, and it was exceptionally well attended. Tim was there. And the energy that Maggie Schumacher and Jack Ellis have really infused into that group is palpable. The kids were having a great time. They had all kinds of projects lined up inside, and they were waiting for their ride outside. It's amazing just the transformation in the last few months since they've been pumping up the steam element of that. And it's a very friendly crowd. I invite all of my fellow board members to go next time.
Which is on?
It's the second Saturday of the month, so I'm not sure what day that is. October 12th. Okay, got it.
Okay. You see the board members' meetings, October 23rd and December the 4th. And December the 4th is going to be an impressive one, and my last meeting. I'm so excited. Anything else? Any other public comment? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
A second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.